Dementia is really a broad umbrella that talks about someone having impairment, usually in their ability to reason through or kind of direct themselves the way that they used to, or the way that they, whatever their baseline was. So it's really in many domains of neurologic function, usually having to do more with that piece of understanding the environment. And so it can be about judgment, their judgment changing about the things that they were able to, or their attention, their ability to attend to something. Sometimes it's about memory. Sometimes it's about, just ability to kind of self-soothe. And so there's a lot of different domains under dementia, but it really, it speaks to overall this sense of their brain losing that ability to maintain that thinking capacity. And so it can really look a lot different for different kids, depending on what they were able to attain and what their baseline had been, and then where they go as those abilities change. The topic of pediatric dementia is really dependent on what the child has been able to achieve and potentially then have a backslide from. And so in children that did not achieve a level of being able to interact or talk or move independently, you won't really see a layer then of backslide. So we do actually, they don't even have to get to a certain age in order to be classified as having dementia. I have children who are in their elementary school ages who have a dementia-like picture because they achieved a certain level of ability to interact, to talk, to move, and then usually a genetic disease of some sort is like Batten's disease. This happens where they're then, maybe agitated or confused or behaviorally dysregulated somehow. And it can be very challenging, especially for a child who still has the ability to move their own body around in that setting, just like we see in older adults, that it's commonly a problem when someone has dementia and can still walk out the front door. That's a much more dangerous situation than someone who has either not gained or has lost the ability to move themselves around independently. And so it can be a very bewildering time because it feels like the person themselves has really changed. And that is a very threatening thing on an emotional level and also on a practical level to keep them safe, to feel like they are able to still have good days, to still enjoy the relationships, the people around them. It's really case by case in terms of how it gets managed. The big pieces of it are those safety pieces and the sustainability pieces. So talking about sleep for those families is huge. They need to be able to have a safe sleep environment, because even if they go to sleep, if they wake up and can then move about the home or something else like that, that can be a kind of big deal. And so trying to understand how to get them a safe sleep environment, consistent sleep. That caregiver has to rest. It comes back to some of those earlier conversations we talked about. That caregiver has to feel like they can actually close their eyes and fully get sleep for some solid hours in order to be able to deal with it the next day. These are really actually very energy intensive situations because of how much care and hands-on, moment to moment attention is required for these families. So it's not necessarily in only specific ages or anything like that, but it is a very complicated logistical and emotional experience for families. Unfortunately, there's not great specific resources to that pediatric dementia kind of calling it out and naming it. I would say actually we don't name it very well even in medicine to call it that. I think people have this idea of dementia as being this older adult entity. And then when you see these changes in kids, sometimes it just gets called agitation, or it just gets called irritability, or it just gets called, some of these other symptom-based aspects. And I think that calling it out and again, bringing that validation to families to say, we are moving into a phase of this illness that is going to be so energy intensive. And I know that you have not let up on any energy thus far, but I need to let you know that this particular set of symptoms, this ability to still be walking, we're so glad they can still be walking because it's helpful for some of their other physical aspects to still be walking, but in combination with this inability to have judgment about what's going on or to regulate their own frustration. That's particularly hard when the kid gets frustrated, because all kids get frustrated. How should they channel that? It's important for me to call out that that is going to take an additional skill set, an additional level of tools from their doctors, from the people in the home, from the, any home health, nursing, respite resources that they have. This is going to intensify. Sometimes it's a temporary period then, because especially for degenerative diseases, we anticipate that those motor abilities, the walking, the strength, those will decline over time. But until there is that change in their motor abilities, we're going to be in a pretty intense phase. And so we need to orient to that, and we need to make sure our resources are appropriate to that. Do they have a rescue medicine if things feel like they're getting too out of hand, if someone's safety is in jeopardy, the child's or someone in the homes, how should we manage that? All of these kind of contingency plans need to be talked through when we're in that kind of situation.